What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to How Do I Want to Do This? This is our series where we take a look at all playable options available to players in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, then we rank them on a scale of 1 to 10 and either build them or fix them depending on how they rank. Now today we reach the most classic monk that is out there, the Way of the Open Hand Monk. And so if you want to be the most monk that you can possibly monk, this might just be the one for you. But before we get into our analysis of it, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. As you can see, most people who watch the channel are not subscribed, so please don't be one of those people. Help us to reach our goal of 5,000 by the end of this year. I think we can do it, but I need your help. And of course, make sure that you share the video with your friends. Click the bell so you're notified when new videos are uploaded, and consider joining the channel so that you can get all of my build guides and subclass fix guides over there on the Google Drive. So the Way of the Open Hand Monk is just as monk as you possibly can be. They are known for using their ki to turn their bodies into weapons and to use your small weaknesses against you in really meaningful ways. And this comes out in the open hand technique. It is an entire fighting style that is unique to this specific subclass. Is it enough to push it over some of the others that we have talked about though? Let's find out. So speaking of, at level 3, we get the open hand technique, and this gives us the ability to possibly inflict 3 effects upon our targets. So with this, whenever we use our flurry of blows feature, we can choose to impose one of the following effects on the target that we hit. 1, we can choose to try to knock them prone and they have to make a dex save. We can try to push them 15 feet away from us, and that is subject to a strength save. Or we can prevent them from taking reactions until the end of our next turn. Now, this is pretty cool, right? Now, stopping reactions is huge, and we'll start there because there's no saving throw. Stopping reactions is the same as something like Shocking Grasp, and basically to me, that is a free disengage. This means that you do not have to spend ki on Step of the Winding. You don't even necessarily have to take the mobile feat. You don't have to be necessarily at reach with some kind of reach weapon. None of that comes into play here. It all just allows you to get out of there if you need to. And so combining this with something like Stunning Strike, combining this with some other nasty effects, can really lead to some really tough situations for your opponent. Next, of course, we can push them up to 15 feet away, subject to a strength save. Strength saves are okay normally. They're not the worst, they're not the best. But either way, forced movement is incredibly nasty against monsters. Notice there's no size restriction on this, there's no weight restriction. There's nothing stopping you from pushing a gargantuan creature 15 feet away, which is kind of nuts seeing how you only need 3 levels in order to do this, but it's still really, really good. So for that, that's also really handy. We can then also knock them prone with a dex save fail. Dex saves are normally okay to target. Again, it's not a con save like our stunning strikes are. And so this isn't the worst out there. And knocking them prone, of course, would give you advantage on the next flurry of blows hit that you make. It would give them disadvantage on you trying to run away when they go to make an opportunity attack. It would give advantage to any of your melee-based fighters that are going to run up between now and the time that that opponent tries to stand up. All of those things, right? So for all of those reasons, these 3 are really nasty, and the saving throws that they're targeting aren't the worst things out there. So for all of those reasons, this starts us off really strong at a 10 out of 10. The open hand technique just gives us so many really great things. It doesn't cost us ki to do this. It just happens, right? And we can do this multiple times per turn. We can do this to more than one creature at a time. As long as there are creatures in range, we can use this as much as we want, which is absolutely amazing. At level 6, we get Wholeness of Body, and this actually gives us kind of a healing type of feature. So with this, we can actually regain hit points as an action equal to 3 times our monk level once per long rest. Now, this isn't the best, right? We're at 6th level, so that's 18 hit points, which is fine, I guess. You know, ultimately this will go up to 60 hit points, which is pretty good. But of course it is also once per day. It's an action. So this probably isn't something I would think about using in combat unless I absolutely needed to. It's definitely better than Quickened Healing because it doesn't cost us ki to do this. So, I mean, if you're thinking about using Quickened Healing or something, I would just throw that out and use this. Really, the biggest restriction of this is that you can't do this to other people. It's only for yourself. And so that's a pretty limiting factor. I would love to be able to pick people up using this. And it's kind of similar to like Lay on Hands, but you can only do it to yourself, which is just unfortunate. I would love if we could do like a Lay on Hands type of thing, but you know, it is what it is. Either way, this comes out to a 7 out of 10. It's fine. The healing is pretty good, but you can only do it once and you can't do it to anybody else. And so it's really selfish in its application. At level 11, we get Tranquility, and this gives us an interesting defensive option. So whenever we wake up from our long rest, or at least end it, we can actually be covered in this aura of peace. So we gain the effect of the Sanctuary spell until we start our next long rest. And then of course it will reset again whenever we finish that long rest again. Of course there is a saving throw DC tied to this, but it's just the same as your key save. So there's not really anything extra to keep track of there either. This is interesting, right? The Sanctuary spell is not a bad spell by any means. It basically allows you to force a wisdom saving throw if someone is going to attack you. And if they fail that save, they've got to, go do something else. So that's pretty good, right? It does end if we make an attack though, or cast a spell that affects an enemy creature, things like that. So there are some limitations there. Now you could use this to just be a tank, right? And just not make attacks. You throw out the ability to open hand technique, and so that's unfortunate. So you could just stand there and when you take a hit, use wholeness of body, but then you're really not helping all that much. I will say if you took certain spells like the Bless spell, Bless would not break Sanctuary, so you could do something like that and then use this to defend your concentration. So I'm not saying that this is necessarily a useless thing, because Sanctuary is a decent spell, it really is. But for a monk that wants to be making attacks and your main 3rd level feature is based on you making attacks, I feel like we're not going to get as much use out of this as we normally would on something else. And so I don't think I can rate it nearly as highly as what I would like to. So this is also going to get a 7 out of 10. It's just unfortunate. We want to be making all of these attacks. Otherwise we don't get an entire feature, and really one of our best features, at least so far, in the open hand technique. So for all of those reasons, I don't want a feature that is really great, but we have to give up one of our better features from earlier. I don't like that. Finally, level 17, we get Quivering Palm, and this is probably the most famous monk feature to ever exist. So let's jump into it. I've been looking forward to talking about it. I'm sure you've been looking forward to hearing about it. It's insane. So when we make an unarmed strike against a creature, we can choose to spend 3 key points to start these vibrations within this creature. And these will last a number of days equal to our monk level. So right now that's 17 days and will eventually go up to 20. These are harmless until you use your action to end them. And when you do this, the target needs to make a Constitution saving throw. If it fails, no matter how much HP it has, it drops to 0. If it succeeds, it takes 10d10 necrotic damage. Now there are some restrictions. You can only affect one creature in this way at a time, and you can also end these harmlessly with an action. Oh boy, so this is the ultimate suck or save type of feature where if you fail that con save, you drop to 0. To me, this is kind of insane, and for several reasons that I really don't see people talking about. Number one, it's only 3 key points. Worst case scenario, you're dealing 10d10 necrotic damage, which is kind of huge. That's a lot of damage, right? And yeah, that's on a successful save. If they fail the save, they of course drop to 0 hit points and you're gone. Where this really comes into play for me and what makes this so important is against creatures with legendary resistance. You're going to be running into creatures all the time at level 17 that have legendary resistance. And those creatures absolutely do not want to be dropped to 0 HP. So they will take the 10d10 necrotic damage over the 0 HP every day of the week. and will of course burn through those legendary resistances as quickly as they possibly can until they run out. Now, of course, it's a con save, and so they probably will succeed a few of them, but if they ever fail them, you know for certain that they are going to use their legendary resistance to not drop to 0 HP. So that's a huge factor in this. This is an interrogation tactic that's basically like, either tell us what we want or I snap my fingers and you're gone. Sorry, you're goodbye, you're dead. Like there are so many interesting applications of this. This really reminds me so much of Kung Fu Panda with the whooshy finger hold, right? Except that you can do it from a distance. And I just think that that's just so funny to think about in this. Either way, this is kind of an insane feature, and if you thought I was giving it any less than a 10 out of 10, then you're crazy. This feature is so good. It's so strong. Even with the con save, I still can't go any lower. So where do we end up on the Way of the Open Hand Monk? This is actually an interesting one because we've got a 10 out of 10 at the beginning, we've got a 10 out of 10 at the end, and then we've got some mediocre stuff in the middle. And that's kind of the tough part of this subclass. We have one of the most busted features in all of D&D at level 17. And I would say, honestly, if this is a level 17 or higher character, this is a 10 out of 10 subclass. However, the other 16 levels are quite important. And let's be real, most people don't make it past level like 12, 13, 14. So ultimately, I can't necessarily rely on that feature to carry our ranking here. So I have to go back and look at some of the other things. Open hand technique is really good, and it's really helpful for getting enemies in positions that they don't want to be in and that you want to put them in, right? You can stunning strike somebody and then punch them off a cliff if you want to. If they fail that strength saving throw, oh yeah, they're going to fail it because they're stunned. And so you've got some really interesting combinations here. You've of course got knocking them prone, which gives advantage to your allies. You can stop reactions. No matter what, these all basically give you a get out of jail free card. And so for all of those reasons, your mobility is enhanced, your maneuverability is great. Like all of these things are just really enhanced by this feature. Nothing in this kit until you get to Quivering Palm costs any key either. So it's really key efficient, right? You're going to be using your key for Flurry of Blows 9 times out of 10. And then once you get to level 17, you'll use it for Quivering Palm, but that's about it. So for all of that, that leaves you with a lot of spare key to use however you need to. So in that regard, it's also really good. Is it a 10 out of 10 subclass before level 17? I think it's close, but again, like what we said with the Mercy Monk, I think it's right there, but I think Wholeness of Body and Tranquility kind of hold us back in how they don't necessarily work towards our goal as well as what they try to. And so for that reason, I've got to give the Way of the Open Hand Monk a 9 out of 10 once again. Like I said, it's really good. And I think that if you're looking at 17th level or higher, this is a 10 out of 10 subclass. I absolutely believe that. However, I don't think that I can give the subclass as a whole a ranking based solely on something that I don't get into level 17 that like 99% of players are never going to see in a game. So for that reason, I've got to take away a point. So what do we think of the Way of the Open Hand Monk? Was I too harsh? Was I too generous? Let me know down in the comments below. Later this week, we're going to be building one of these together, and I am very much looking forward to bringing death to those, at least after level 17. And we will just have to see where we end up with that. Until then, stay safe out there, stay healthy. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.